Hey everyone, hey kids, and welcome to Hey Lamb, a brand new podcast that is going to be discussing all things Mariah Carey related. I'm your host, Matt, aka Treacle, and perhaps you know me from my YouTube channel, True Treacle, which is completely dedicated to all things Mariah. I have over 150 videos dedicated to Mariah. I have got album rating videos and reaction videos and interviews and conversations with other lambs, and that has been some of my favorite content. The most interesting thing for me to do is sit down and have a conversation with another super Mariah fan, a lamb, and that is what this podcast is going to be all about. In each episode of Hey Lamb, I'm going to cover a different topic, bring you a different lamb. Maybe we see different lambs come back over time. We'll see how things go, but I'm really looking forward to this. You can get involved by following the new Hey Lamb podcast on Instagram. The Instagram handle is at Hey Lamb Podcast. Nice and simple. So go and get involved over on Instagram as well, and you can let me know what you're thinking of episodes and maybe help shape future content as well. Let me know what kind of topics you would like to hear discussed on this podcast. I mentioned my YouTube channel, True Treacle. You can actually watch this podcast on my YouTube channel as well, because this is a video podcast. So if you are listening wherever you download your podcast, that's fantastic. Maybe you have found this video version of the podcast on my YouTube channel. So you have got choice. You can listen where all good podcasts are available, or you can go ahead and watch on my YouTube channel. So that is what Hey Lamb is going to be all about. So what are we discussing today? Well, as we know, Mariah has been celebrating the 30th anniversary of her career with MC30, and it's been this wonderful retrospective into her back catalogue, and it really has had me reflecting on just how long I have been a lamb for, because it's quite a few years. We're going to talk about that in just a second, and I've really been reflecting on how things have changed, because I remember being a little boy and collecting VHS tapes and cassette tapes, and then we've cruised through MP3 downloads, and we are now in the age of streaming and social media, and it is a completely different game, and that is what I want to talk about. So to join me on this first ever episode, I have invited someone who remembers the way things used to be. It is a very good friend of mine. You know him for being active on social media, very active on social media, and he is a hoot and a bit of a cutie to boot. So those of you watching on my YouTube channel, you're in for a little bit of a treat. Please welcome my good Irish lamb friend, Taz Conway. Hey Taz, welcome.
Hey Matt, thanks for having me.
So glad to have you here. And first thing I notice is you have a splash, of course. And I have my splash as well. So digital cheers to you. We're doing this remotely through the power of technology. Everything is done done remotely. How are things for you over in Ireland these days?
Yeah, all good. Working from home, the usual. So nothing extremely exciting at the minute. We're all waiting for the floodgates to open so we can all go wild, and hopefully get to see Mariah somewhere.
Oh my gosh, that's the latest thing on social media, is people are having, withdrawal symptoms. everyone's really craving, because Caution World Tour was what, 2 years ago?
2019, yeah, coming up on 2 years ago now, actually. Yeah. It's crazy.
Because I feel like, no, that's wrong when I say that, but no, the album came out at the end of 2018. So guys, you all know Taz from social media. So Taz, your Insta is Taz Conway, right? And the Twitter is Taz Irish Lamb.
That's right.
I'm always worried I get them the wrong way. But why aren't they the same? Why are they different?
I think my Instagram started out as a personal account, but Mariah just obviously syncs in every time, so it's kind of a blended account. And I think my Twitter is mostly for Mariah. Like, most of my friends wouldn't really be on Twitter. A few, of course, but like, it's mainly for me to profess my love or retweet Mariah's great moments. So we all do, you know what I mean? So
actually, now that you say that, yeah, your Twitter is 100% Mariah, but your Instagram is still very heavily Mariah, but there are some other things on there as well. So yeah, guys, if you don't already, you need to go and check out Taz on Insta. It's Taz Conway, and it is Taz Irish Lamb on Twitter. So Taz, just to let everyone know, you and I have been lamb friends. We've known each other for over 15 years. Is it? I mean, how many is it?
I think it's actually 20 years, because I remember we were friends from the Twitter area. Like, Yeah,
Oh my
2001. Yeah, definitely. Because at least definitely 2001, 2002, 100%.
oh my gosh, oh my
So it's coming
gosh.
up. It's coming
Okay.
up on 20 years. So we know it's longer than we even think. So
And this is why I wanted to invite you to chat with me about this, because I wanted to have a chat with someone who remembers what it was like back in the day. And I'm like, well, if I'm going to age myself and say I remember VHS and cassette, I want to bring someone who's just a little bit older than me. So that's why I reached out to you, Tess. But let's get the
the
awkward bit out.
bleakosity, bleakosity.
It is very, very bleak. Let's get the numbers out of the way. I'll go first. I'll be brave and vulnerable. I just turned 37 very, very recently. So I remember Mariah in the 90s, and I was there through the glitter, everything. I was 17 when glitter came out and all the rest of it. So yeah. But
Well,
how long have you been around for? And how long have you been a lamb for?
I've been around the block a few times, but well, I'm a little bit older than Mariah, so I'm 14. So I wish. Anyways, so I'm 40, going on 41 this year. Abusive, darling, abuse. Anyway, it is what it is. And I've been a fan since about 1993, so around the Music Box era. I became a collector maybe a little bit later, around 94, 95. But I discovered who she was, the Music Box album. Sucked me right in, and here we are.
Amazing. And it was you're right, it was the glitter era that you and I met, because back in the day I had my Mariah website, and we had the message board, we had the forum and all of that, and you were always like, you've always been online, you're always there.
Yeah.
Like when I kind of came back out the woodwork last year with my YouTube channel, I'm like, of course Taz is there with loads of followers online. Like I felt like I ran away for a bit and was a bit more underground, but you've been there the whole time.
To my detriment, yes. But I love it. I love being part of the Lambs. I love everyone that supports Mariah, So like for me, like I am a collector, but you're no less of a fan if you have 5 CDs, if you have 25 CDs
Yeah.
or 50 CDs. Once you love Mariah, that's it. Like, so, we're all the same. We're all family at the end of the day, So I like, even if someone, as you say, like this whole discussion is about, I suppose, going through the eras and the different experiences that we may have had. But like, even if you became a Mariah just from the Caution era, and you love her, like, then you're just as much of a lamb as I am, or you are. It doesn't mean like having time doesn't really negate anyone else being as much of a fan as us. You know what I mean? So
definitely, you're still valid, and that is something I want to kind of build to. We'll certainly touch on that later. I want to just kind of reflect on what it must be like now for newer lambs coming in. But I get excited when people are finding Mariah these days and they haven't had the experience of going through all of the album eras. I'm like, well, good for you finding Mariah when she's taken like a 4-year gap between albums. Good for you joining the Lamley when it's not always been like the cool thing, maybe, because she's had her ups and downs and everything. But let's take it right back to the beginning. So you mentioned Music Box era was like the one, but in terms of where it started for you, do you have that memory, that song? What was the introduction, or was it just like a gradually kind of building of awareness?
it was kind of like, my best friend at the time had the Music Box on cassette, and we used to pal around a lot, and they'd be always playing the album. And I didn't really, like, I got familiar, just through familiarity. I just thought the album was good. So I remember asking then, can I borrow the cassette? So I borrowed it. I fell in love. There was actually such an old cassette. There was no cover, nothing. There was just literally Mariah and her voice. Didn't know what she looked like. I just thought, this woman can sing.
Oh, so you didn't even see her to begin with. It was just
never even knew what she looked like. Literally,
wow.
See the inlay for details or whatever, and her name on the cassette. So that was that. And then I think I was visiting cousins in England, in Birmingham, and then there was the Here Is Mariah Carey concert on VHS at the time. I picked it up. I was like, oh my God. Like, and I was getting through that, some of the older music, like Someday and stuff. I was like, oh my God, she is insane. Because you could still watch that concert today and still be floored. So I think and then, you were building your, like, I suppose you wouldn't be a fan, or back then the Lamb term wasn't coined, but you still, I suppose you were getting sucked in to the machine that is Mariah Carey. She was so, like, and even at that point, I don't even think I knew she was hitting all these records or her first 5 singles were one. It was just literally the music.
Yeah.
And I think the more I think when she hit us with Daydream, then I was like mind blown. Like, oh my god, like fantasy and 1 2 10. Like she hook, line, and sinkered us all in. Like that was it. We were fans for life. Like that was we're like this was like the CD looked gold. It felt like solid gold. It was just the whole thing was just. I mean, fairness to Sony back in the day, they really packaged and poised her and really made her like the elite artist, the untouchable.
So was it from Music Box and then Daydream? Like that was it. You were in, and every time an album was out, you were ready for it, and you were collecting. I mean,
Ready for it.
that's
Mm.
early. Wow. Daydream
Mm.
was the one for me. I remember it all started for me. I told this story a couple of times, but it was All I Want for Christmas Is You. I had that on CD cassette, and I would play the heck out of that as my mum would drive my sister and I to primary school. So 94, I was 10. So that is like year 5, year 6. So last year or two of primary school. And I would, if I was riding shotgun, and I'm in charge of the music that's playing in the cassette player, it was All I Want for Christmas Is You. Like, no question. But then after Christmas, going into the spring of 95, I was still playing that to death. And it was like half amusing, half annoying for my mum and sister. But I was just obsessed with that song so much. So then later in 95, when Daydream came out, because I had my little, stash of cassettes, I used to always love music and love listening to music as I went to sleep on my cassette player. And my mum bought me Daydream by Mariah, and I said to her like years later, like, why did you randomly buy me Daydream? And I kind of forgot about the whole All I Want for Christmas obsession. And she said, because you wouldn't stop playing that cassette. And I thought, well, this is her next album. So I was like, oh, okay, well, it's your credit/fault that all of this has happened. Because I
So
used to
true.
play Daydream over and over and over. I would fall asleep. It's that thing where you have to kind of like sleep with your head not moving, because if you roll over, the headphones hurt your ears. That was me, age 10, age 11. And I knew side A of Daydream on cassette inside and out. I played that to death, and I would always fall asleep before I gave side B a full listen. So every so often I would force myself not to play side A, which contained all the songs that I knew and loved, loved, but I'd force myself to become better acquainted with side B and start my drifting off to sleep moment in bed with side B. I mean, I've got such distinctive memories listening to, yeah, All I Want on cassette and Daydream on cassette. And actually, I think after that, I think everything was CD for me.
I suppose then when I think back to those times, I suppose I was only 13, 14, 15 myself. 13 when Music Box was out. So I mean, I wasn't earning money or anything like. So I remember even when Butterfly came out, I was 17, and I went shopping with my mother. I remember distinctly, like we went to the supermarket to get whatever, and like the one of those little side shops with CD music, and they were playing Butterfly. So I obviously went in and I was like, "Ma'am, can I wait here while the?" So I was listening to the album in the store, like literally hung in the store for an hour. They're playing
Oh
Honey,
my God.
Butterfly, My All. And it was my first time ever hearing any of these songs. So I begged her then after the shopping, please buy me the CD. And to her credit, she
Just
did.
stood
So
there at one of those listening stations. I remember listening stations.
back then as well, I think MC30, as you mentioned a while ago, is a great idea as well because we like a lot of lambs know her album stuff and maybe the odd remixes and stuff like that. But like, so being the collector, you'd always buy her singles. You get all the Honey remixes, like the Urban, the Dance,
Mm.
the I Still Believes, like, and a lot of people probably weren't exposed to those unless they were collecting those CDs.
Yeah,
I
you
suppose
had to
later in
collect
years,
them. You had to get them.
so the
So you had to get the full set. You had to get the CD
side
one,
CD
the
one,
CD
CD
two.
two,
You had to do it.
yeah. So like I suppose MC30 now was a great way for her to really backtrack on what she's released, and I mean I suppose her genius, like So there's probably I Still Believe remixes, like there's probably like maybe 14 or 15 on that one EP now. You can get the dance version, the R&B remixes, and it's unbelievable.
I love MC30 for doing exactly that, because for different reasons, but I think music is so accessible. Like it's just almost a little bit too easy. You had to really go, walk down to the shop and buy the CDs, and you had to really get, make the effort. So then once you've made that effort, you really give it that airtime, and you really listen. That was, you would play side A of a cassette all the way through. You would play it and then turn it over, and CD start to finish. I would very rarely put it on like shuffle. I would go top to bottom with an album. So this is why I'm enjoying the whole vinyl moment right now, because vinyl, you put it on and you give it a listen. It feels like it's coming full circle in that way, but at the same time, it's new for me because I never collected vinyl until MC30 really rolled around. What about you? Is MC30 been the start of vinyl for you?
No, I actually have I'd say before I was 30, I had maybe 50 or 60 vinyls. You know, I have a lot of her original
Wow.
albums and vinyls. I think there's only two that I don't have. But again, because I suppose I class myself as a collector, over the years, if something came out, I
Yeah.
tried my best either to order it or whatever. But um, I suppose, like, even as you mentioned a few moments ago for yourself, you know, being a kid with the earphones on, and I think that's really important when it comes to Mariah album. I think people who listen to it in their car or just throw it on to, like, cast it across to a device, I think you get a whole different experience if you put the headphones in and you
Yeah.
actually let the layers hit you, you know. So it's grand listening to a song, but you actually hear all these nuances and little, maybe even sound clips you never heard before, and you're like, oh my god, the level of genius in these songs is insanity. Like, it's just, she has that down to an art, you know, like nobody else can. Even the vocal layering and the that was it the voice of sound or wall of sound that she does, like say like the I Am Free, where she builds it
Yeah.
up into a big crescendo. So I think you really experience those songs much better with the headphones. And I even caution
Yeah.
album, like when I first listened to it on headphones, like as much as you get chills normally, like it just really, I implore anyone to do that with any Mariah album. Just literally start to finish, put the headphones
Yeah.
in, and let it sink in. The genius.
It's more intimate having headphones in, and that's why I remember listening to certain albums for the first time because it was, you know, on cassette with headphones, or it was CD with headphones, whatever it was. Like for me, like the Emotions album, I remember when I was fleshing out my collection. When I say collection, just getting her albums, I didn't want to rush and get everything because I thought I am freaking in love with her voice, and I didn't want to binge all of her albums. And this was, I think, Number Ones was coming out, or was it Rainbow? But it was at that point, they were like late 90s. So I'm like, there's only a certain number of albums out. If I binge them all, that's it. I wanted to savor each one. And I remember being in like record stores and which one should I add next? Which should I get? And Emotions to me was one I left because I was like, well, I know these songs from MTV Unplugged. So there's only a small handful that are new. And it's a short album in terms of track length, and the artwork it wasn't exciting me. So I remember I left Emotions until last. So this was number 10. It was number one. I remember Rainbow coming out. So yeah, I remember listening to Emotions. Well, no, buying Emotions and saving it, and we were going on a family holiday vacation for any Americans listening to Cyprus, and I thought, oh, I'll take that with me. And I took my Discman. Do you remember Discmans? And listening to CDs on the go, and you felt like it was so cool, but then you had to like keep it flat and you couldn't let it, you know, jump around and stuff. Oh my gosh, how far we've come. But I remember listening to Emotions for the first time in Cyprus and listening to it over and over and over. And I took myself off to like the beach in the evening, and just listening to the ballads over and over and over with the moonlight and the water lapping on the rocks and the beach. And when I listen to the ballads on Emotions, it takes me back to me sat on the beach with my Sony Discman.
Recreating the My All scene.
yeah, without realizing it at the time. And then I think for me it was, I remember being really excited with Rainbow coming out and playing that, like completely binging that album and really really living that. But then it was the glitter era where I was really in the Lamely, and hence the website, and we met online and everything. It's worth mentioning you and I have never actually met in person still.
I know it's mental, and as we've mentioned before, like we've been in the same vicinity at least 2 to 3 times, so that's crazy.
Yeah, Charm Bracelet World Tour. We were at the same venue, but the one that's crazy for me is it March 2005 when Mariah did TRL, and you were over visiting from Ireland. You were in London. We were in the same studio, and those London studios are tiny, absolutely tiny, and we were in
Yeah.
the same. It's not like the same building. Like, oh yeah, we were at the same concert. No, we were in the same room with like, I don't know, 50 people, and we never met. So yeah, it's crazy. We have to
We'll have
well,
to
we've
make
got
a moment.
plans. We've thrown some ideas around and some plans with some other people and the things, and one day we'll have to make that happen. But cassettes and VHS tapes and even like a CD. I mean, I think that's why I'm enjoying the whole vinyl moment, because it reminds me of my childhood in a way. Like looking at the packaging and touching the product. I love the ease of access with digital, but there's something that takes me back to my childhood with looking at the artwork, putting it on and go, I'm in the mood for that album, and putting it on and listening to it. Do you prefer the ease of the digital era, or do you miss how it was?
I totally miss how it was. Even like you'd go to the like record store looking for promo items or promo CDs, even, and it's like for a long, long time, a lot of our releases were not coming with that. You just literally, you'd have it like, as literally send out a link and you can click here to download it on iTunes or listen to it on Spotify. But it's just for me to have something tangible in your hands, like a piece of Mariah memorabilia, like you just can't beat it. So like that with MC30, we all went wild because we all needed to have it, so. And even I remember like back in the day, even just to own a CD, like I remember going out in the club 17, 18 and literally handing the DJ the Honey single and saying like, will you play this song? And then go back up, can I have it back now? Thanks. But that's how it was, because they couldn't get it digitally. Now I'm sure if you request a song, they can go on Spotify and play whatever to the crowd. Like back then you'd have to say, hey, take this please and play this. And they would, normally they'd be sound like they'd play it and I'd have my little honey dance on the floor and all my seamen around me.
I love it. Were you doing the honey choreo? Was your honey dance the honey dance?
The honey dance, girl.
Oh, I love it. Oh, please tell me you've got some hidden footage deep in your archive somewhere.
Girl, it was 97. Like, who had cameras? Like, it's not like it's today. True. We have iPhone. Back then it's crazy, but like, just didn't happen. So
I remember iPods being advertised as such a big thing. Like, you can have 5,000 songs in your pocket or whatever. And I'm like, wow, we take it for granted now. Like, you've got the whole world in your pocket on your phone at any time. High definition camera, all the music you want. It is just nuts. But this is kind of taking me forward to the next part I wanted to talk about, really, which was, it's not just different for us, it's different for Mariah, because she's had to go through that huge successful period where it's all about, she refers to, they called me the franchise, and it's all about products and units of sale. How many units has she sold, and the album sales records are crazy, and that's something that I want to talk about in a future podcast episode. But it's a different game now for her. It's social media. It's all about streaming and digital. It's very, very different. So that's a conversation that we're going to get into. We'll be right back after a quick break. Taz has been a guest on my YouTube channel, True Treacle, a few times, and he has been a recurring guest on my Mariah Carey Memoir Book Club series. You can check out me, Taz, and a couple of other Lamb friends talking all about the meaning of Mariah Carey in my 5-part book club series over on my YouTube channel. Simply head over to YouTube and search for True Treacle and look under playlists to see my Memoir Book Club. And we are back. So Taz, I want to just get your thoughts really on how it's been for Mariah. We all know she was hugely successful, when it was VHS and cassette tapes and even CDs. But I'm trying to think, when was that rule? It wasn't like one day it's one way and the other day it's just completely different. There was a shift. I'm trying to remember when, do you remember like being on like things like Napster and LimeWire and trying to get like, there's been a song that's leaked and stuff. Like, what was it? For me, I think it was Glitter and Charm Bracelet. Do you remember like downloading songs through things like that?
I remember them being around, but I don't know. I think for me, because I was a collector, I'd obviously like always go and get the single. I'm sure you did as well. But like there was definitely like back then, but I suppose internet was in its infancy in general, not even just Napster. Like 97, 98, internet was only kind of taken off. But I suppose we have to give props obviously to Mariah, because as much as we'd say she is, obviously the sales aren't today what they were, but to be even a relevant artist, like she's up there with the big names 30 years into her career. Like, so there's been artists that about 15, 20 years ago, 10 years ago that had big hits, and there's no sign of them now, and sometimes they release off and we don't even still hear about it. So to have a career 30 years in and just be a top-notch, top-name artist, well-respected in the industry, it hasn't gone by the wayside in itself, is a tremendous feat.
I think it's not just about how the music is accessible. I think part of it is like how you play the game. And I remember there's been, for me, it's like social media is changing and moving so fast. And I think at the beginning it was like the record label says you have to have a Facebook page. Okay, now you have to have a Twitter. Now you have to have an Instagram. There's so much. And it originally started out as that is almost like a website, you know, like you have to have a Facebook page, like you have your website, and it's pretty much like for like. And I feel like it's just completely different now. That is not like just a platform where you advertise what your latest release is. It is a medium through which you can be creative and inventive, and you can have interaction with your fans. And I don't think Mariah was necessarily the fastest or quickest person. I'm trying to remember what it was like in the early days. I mean, I remember I got a tweet from her in 2000, I want to say 2010. When was Twitter out? Anyway, like the first like 2-3 years, it felt like Twitter being out. I had a tweet from her, a DM. But she's really, really, I think, savvy and quick and clever with social media. What are your thoughts on Mariah and social media?
Like, I guess before social media, even to coin the terms, like through our friendship, I think with Trey Lorenz, they had this whole be a lamb, or you be a lamb, or you get that, be a lamb. And then the whole Lamely thing happened because he was one of her best friends, and I suppose she extended that out to her fans, you know, as they were just as close as, or almost like family to her. So the family term became Lamely. And like she was the first artist. They're all doing it now. Like obviously you've got the Lady Gaga, Little Monsters, and the Beehive, and all these different ones, right? But Mariah was the first to do that, and I think that was very savvy.
Yes.
She was first, Heaney. She was first color for jeans in the Heartbreaker video. But you know, she's done a lot of things to be clever and be relevant. But I think personally, where she dropped the ball big time for me was when Snapchat took off. She had for a brief moment an official Snapchat account, Mariah Carey Live.
Oh my God, I forgot about that. I mean, I've barely dabbled. Okay, so tell me about it. Remind me. Like, do you remember, what was it, behind the scenes clips? Like, what was she posting?
It's kind of like behind the scenes or just like moments, but I'd say it was no more than 20 to 30. And I feel like in the infancy of Snapchat, like other artists embraced it, like even likes of, say, Kylie Jenner. Like, okay, let's go back a second. Like Mariah, you know, in the 90s, say late 90s, Rainbow era. If she would bring out Heartbreaker, she'd have to fly to UK to talk to you UK radio station. She'd be in France. She'd have to do a round the world tour. Now she can literally, as we see during COVID-19, she can sit in her apartment and go on to radio. Say it's all everything's digital now. She can do everything from the.
You can talk to the world from your living room.
Do you know what I mean? But that wasn't the way it was back then. You literally had to go to eat. Like she'd come to, as you know, Capital FM or Radio 1, talk to, you know, Trevor Nelson, whoever she'd have to talk to, and go on to her audiences all around the world. That would be her promo trip. It doesn't even have to be a tour, just to get the name or even let the world know she had a song out. I suppose I personally think with the infancy of Snapchat, you have the likes, as I said, of Kylie Jenner using that to, you know, swatch their arms and like gain their fans. Like Mariah, as we know, is very funny, really quick-witted, funny moments. She really could have built a good base just as a personality, or as doesn't have to be pushing her, even her music, just to really let people know who she is, because as we both know, there is that whole diva, and some people have obviously, unfortunately, the wrong idea about Mariah at times. They just think she's not connected in the real world. But if you actually think about it, she's a really, really savvy businesswoman. And I've actually tweeted over the years, like, why does Mariah Carey not have a Snapchat account? But it never happened, and that's a bone of contention for moi.
There's some good sense in what you say, because I've often shared that same gripe that she doesn't have enough of herself on the record, and she does not hide behind the diva thing. That's her shtick, and she knows, and she plays up to it, because in the day, that's what we want. We want Mariah to be Mariah Carey. I think sometimes she gets bored of wearing that crown, but we need a Mariah Carey on the scene and in the world, and so she does play up to that. But she is very funny. I mean, most recent like smash, the biggest one that comes to mind is the bottle top challenge, because that was getting like major media traction, you know. So she gets a lot of, I feel like that's happening more in like recent years. When she's just being herself on social media, she shines through and people pick up on it, and I'm like, yeah, this is like great for now. But you're right, we could have had some of that earlier. We could have had that. I completely forgot about the Snapchat moment. Do you have any favorite moments from Mariah on social media?
I suppose when she does do something, it usually is iconic. So when she does something good, it's monumental. Like, so as you said, the bottle top challenge, or the like last year she done the switch for the St. Patrick's Day. So they flick the light switch and they're all there in the St. Patrick's Day. Things she does do are iconic, as few and far rare they are.
The whole "it's time" moment, the switch from Halloween to Christmas, that was so exciting for me, because That's Mariah's time. Christmas is her time. Christmas belongs to Mariah. And the fact that she came up with that clever way to switch, and then that's something she can revisit each year. So it's actually, that's really clever, because now people will be like, Mariah, is it
Is it
time?
time?
And then she could, so then she's kind of got the pressure of, oh, I've got to do another one. I've got to like outdo
Mm,
myself. But even if each year she just did a transition of Halloween outfit into Christmas ensemble or something, that's fun just to see her go from each Halloween outfit. I don't know. There's so many different things. But I mean, we were fans back in the day, primarily, well, solely because of the music. I mean, you said you had the cassette tape, you didn't have the artwork, you didn't know what she looked like. I remember being shocked the first time I saw her on TV, like listening to her interview, like she's got a really deep voice. Her speaking voice is really husky, and I thought she was sick,
mm.
and she wasn't on that day. That it took me a few interviews to really twig that is just her speaking voice. It's just how it is.
A little raspy, as she calls it herself.
Yeah. Whereas now
But
it's different. If you can't become a fan of someone and not like, oh, I wonder what dot dot dot. What other songs they've got, or I wonder where they're from, or I wonder, what else they've, worked on or put out. You can find that in 10 seconds now because of the internet. It must be so different. I wonder what it's like for people coming into the Lamely now. My God, like where do you begin? Where do you start? There's just so much. What do you think it's like for lambs joining these days?
like, I think it's really good for lambs out because, as you said, everything's at their fingertips now. Like, I genuinely
Mm.
remember, as you say, back in the Napster days, and I'm not even joking. Like, we used to have dial-up internet, so there was no broadband, there was
Yep,
no
yep.
cable, and to literally download an MP3 of 3 or 4 megabytes could take you 40
Yeah,
minutes,
it
if
took
not longer.
time. It took time. You had to really want to listen to it. And sorry to interrupt you, but the biggest like pain in my life at the time was you think you found the right album and you're on torrent or LimeWire or Napster or something. You give it those 45 minutes to download, and bitch, it's the wrong one. They
Yeah.
mislabeled it, or they did it deliberately. They foiled you. It took time.
What else as well? Like, I mean, for the kids nowadays as well, if you have never used a cassette machine, like you put the cassette in, it wasn't like you could skip to track 7. You literally had to go in, try and guess where on the cassette track 7 might be.
Yeah.
You might go a couple of seconds or a minute into the song to rewind back. It's like a physical tape in the machine.
I remember having Mariah VHS mixtapes, which I wish I still had. I wish I'd kept them and had them converted to digital, because anytime Mariah was due on like, what was like the Ozone? Do you remember the Ozone or BBC or anything that she was on? You would be there and you'd be poised with your fingers ready on like, play and record or whatever. And the minute she would come on, you would press record. You'd hope you caught it. It was so. Whereas now you're like, oh, remember that interview? You're straight on YouTube and you have it.
YouTube.
The kids have got it too damn easy, I reckon,
Two-handed.
Taz.
They haven't
They'll never
struggled any.
know.
They haven't struggled.
They won't know the struggle. But we were lucky because we've been there for like the golden era. I see a lot of younger lambs online like, oh my God, can you imagine being alive during Daydream? And I'm like, well, I was, but I was only 10, so I didn't really live it. But I think when they've joined the Lamely in later years, it's very different because they've got more access to her body of work. They've got more access to her, but in terms of material, I mean, they've had to sit and wait like what 4 years now between an album, maybe. Think about how much we were spoiled.
Hits after hits after hits, album after album, success. So she loved the studio anyway. She loved writing, songwriting. She had the voice, so why not, I guess.
We were spoiled. And we're still being spoiled because she still gives us so much. We will be right back after a quick break. Thanks for listening to Hey Lamb, guys. I hope you are enjoying it. If you are, you can leave me a little tip. You can buy me a drink over on buymeacoffee.com. It is a great way to show your support to your favorite creators by buying them a drink. Simply head over to buymeacoffee.com/heylamb and you can tip me with a little drink. Cheers. Okay, Taz, so we were just talking about Mariah and social media. Is there anything that you can think of that you would like to see Mariah do? I guess it's things like I would love for her to do an Instagram live or something, just like a random Q&A. Some of my favorite moments have been interviews she's done with celebrities, like Mariah just kikiing with Naomi Campbell was amazing. It just felt like two girlfriends having a splash of wine, having a catch up, and we felt privy to that. That was amazing. I think there's still room for Mariah to use social media even more. I would love for her to have some kind of, I don't know, young lamb advisor. I'm not pitching myself. I actually think it should be someone in their 20s, not me festering in my 30s. I think, someone that can really give her some, I don't know, like, not advice. She doesn't need advice, but like just some tips or some tricks. Because just to make even more like viral moments, or just to maybe give back in some different ways. Because do you remember she's done like Facebook Live a couple of times, hasn't she? I'm trying to remember.
She's done a few. She's done a few places, but I think the problem is even on Instagram, she's done stuff, and sometimes people like, I didn't like that, or she done something like Instagram Live. I think then babies came in, might have been a little bit unplanned, but a lot of people then were like spewing hate over that, and she was like, "I'm sorry, you guys didn't like it," and I suppose she felt let down, and she took the leap. So it's a hard one to damned if you do, damned if you don't.
One thing that I've really kind of pined for was some kind of digital concert, because we've had those amazing moments with her mashing up songs and revisiting songs that she put on her YouTube channel, and I love that. I love the fact that she is giving us life, with going back with some songs from across the years and giving them like a 2020 2021 interpretation, and they're beautiful. But I'd love for her to do like a concert online, like it's an e-ticketed
Love that
thing.
concept.
Oh my gosh, like it could be all the deep cuts, the material that you're not going to get on a regular tour, because it's difficult with a tour, because you need to cater to Mr. and Mrs. Smith. They need Hero and We Belong Together and Always Be My Baby, and there's nothing wrong with those songs. I want them in a concert. But if she did something through social media or something online, it can be deep cuts, rarities based, fan voted. I mean, are you down for something like that? What would you like to see her do?
Yeah, I think it's a really good call, because even with like just thinking out to myself there, obviously the recent performances that she done, and also the time she done like Love Story acoustic for MTV, where she comes out like from behind the lights and
Yes,
gives us like shade, like that, like even today that's iconic. Like, so I would love something like that, and maybe, as you said, maybe not a free for all, because you'll obviously get the haters sometimes. So maybe if you want real fans to log on and pay for this concert, I'm all for it. I'd pay my ticket and let's go.
absolutely. Oh yeah, take my coins. I mean, she's taken most of them with MC13 vinyl and whatnot, but I can rustle up a few more coins for Mariah. I think it should be. I think an e-ticket, and there's maybe different levels. I think there should be like a Q&A. I think there could even be like random, or like a competition for like meet and greet, or you can really pay for like a digital meet and greet. It's not the same as a behind backstage at a concert, but meet and greet is meet and greet, So I think.
But if she was even to give a sound, but like, "Hey Matt from the UK, I love your show, True Shriek," if you paid for whatever she's to say, whatever.
I love it. I would definitely love that. So at the beginning, we said, we're a little bit older than maybe some of the lambs on Twitter, but I think just a little bit, just a smidge. But I think as we have reminisced and demonstrated, it's there's nothing to be ashamed of. I think it's something to be proud of. There's a little bit of like age shaming or whatever, and I'm like, you can't make me feel bad about my age. I know we do the whole like, oh, I'm eternally 12, and I don't play that game as much as like other lambs do, because that's like a long running joke, but I'm 37, and I'm proud of who I am and how I live and how I look and just how I conduct my business, and I don't get all bogged down with like the games and everything online, because I haven't got time for that. I've been around the block a couple too many times to care about what random people say, and I think that's part of my motivation or my thinking behind doing the YouTube channel, and now even this podcast, is I want to have fun doing it, and then I'll put it out, and if people want to join the party, then come on board, and if you don't like it, then that's totally fine. Not everything is for everyone. But how do you feel? I mean, because you're on Twitter a lot more than me. You've been on Twitter longer than me. How do you find it being, mixing in, because I do feel like, when I see you on there, I'm like, oh, digital high five, there's another person from like, my year at school, and here we are with all the young ones coming up. But how do you find it?
I suppose you don't really notice it as much when you're going through the stages. You just evolve with technology. So, like, I remember Mariah tweeted something, and then I was hearing in the rumors. Mariah just sent a tweet, and I was like, okay, I'm downloading Twitter or whatever this is. I remember thinking even at the time, Jesus, this is genius. You just send an on the fly thought,
Yeah.
and people can agree, disagree, whatever. I thought it was a genius platform because, Facebook, I suppose, is more your circle of friends, but this just goes out into your thought can just go into the universe and see where it lands. You know what I mean? So I just thought it was. So even for someone like Mariah, you can just literally tweet what you want, whatever she's feeling, promote whatever she wants. It's genius.
We're so lucky. I don't need her to be on Twitter all the time. I'm just thankful she's there. She doesn't need to be. She doesn't need to be reaching out to anyone on Instagram, on Twitter. But I'm so happy that she does pop on and give us these moments. And I do enjoy the fact there is a mixture on Twitter, because I learned things from the newer lambs, and I enjoy their experiences. They, like MC30, bring in remixes and things and remix videos to light, and people are like, oh, I forgot about that, or I didn't know about that one. And I enjoy watching reaction videos where people listen to a Mariah live performance or something for the first time, because I'm like, well, I've said it like 100 times, but it's fun to see you experience it for the first time. So that's why I enjoy Twitter. I do enjoy mixing it up. The one thing I don't enjoy is this term that gets thrown around, and I don't want to like breathe life into it. But Taz, how do you feel about the label of fossil lamb? Are you a fossil lamb? Am I a fossil
Deep,
lamb?
it comes deep.
What is the criteria? How old does one have to be a fossil lamb? Are we fossil?
But what's
lambs,
the problem with being a fossil lamb? What's the problem? You know what I mean? Like, it's not like we're not clued in. I'm included in with everything that the kids are down with today. You know what I mean? Like, so.
Well,
I don't understand.
One topic we haven't touched on, but we'll get into another time maybe, is, well, don't have to, it's your personal life, but you have a kid. You have a kid that can keep you down with the kids. So it's easier for you.
I have to actually keep a step ahead of myself just to be aware of the different kind of things he could be watching or downloading. He's all like, can I download Twitch? Can I download this app? I'm like, I don't know what that is. So I'll have to investigate
that's a really good point. That's a huge thing. That's a huge thing for parents, internet safety. That is a really strong motivator for you to be clued in, plugged in, switched on, know what's going on.
Because they don't see the pitfalls that we'd obviously see, so you're obviously trying to educate. Look, I'm not being nasty by saying no to this, but there's a reason. So they just see their friends gaming and live gaming and stuff like that. But look, at the end of the day, Mariah has embraced technology as best I think that she can. She's not allergic. Like, she has a TikTok, she has a Twitter, she has an Instagram. She's active on Twitter and Instagram a lot. The time she done the what was that song? Oh God, The Art of Letting Go. She done it. She said, "I'm going to release this on Facebook as a single, as a Facebook Live," and whoever it was. So I thought this is genius. Like, she can share this, all the lambs can share this out into Facebook. There's going to be a countdown. It's going to be live and someone uploaded the wrong version.
First listen, and then it was a great moment, but it was the wrong version. So for her,
that took the goodness for her as a creative person. Like, this is not the version I wanted out there. So I guess to her, the whole thing was a fail. So that would probably put her off doing that again. Obviously, for obvious reasons. The thing with New Year's Eve, the ears gone wrong. I just think, like, even the UK charts last year, the year before, all of Christmas one, like the year before, there was some count wrong. Like, digital and Mariah just is like oil and water. It just doesn't always work out for her.
There's a topic for a future video, that the times when technology foiled Mariah. You touched on there briefly. For anyone that isn't aware, like, All I Want for Christmas Is You should have gone to number one a year before it did, but there was was it like a random like lyric video or something? Some of her sales or streams or some of her chart points were attributed to this other version that wasn't her. And
so her sales are split.
Yeah, there was a split of sales points, and she stalled at number 2, right? And she should have been number 1, and whatever, we finally got number 1 the year after. But yeah, the times that Mariah was let down by technology, there's a topic. But just to finish up with, I don't mind being on Twitter. Look, if Mariah's on Twitter, I'm on Twitter. If Mariah's on Instagram, I'm on Instagram. I feel I don't mind. I don't know, like leaning into whisper, like it's a podcast. I'm gonna hear. I feel old on YouTube. I'm old on YouTube. It's that whole thing of I don't give a shit. I really don't care. I'm doing me. I think that part of it is you have to just embrace it and go fuck it. But some people get their knickers really in a twist about the whole fossil lamb thing. I think it's just because it's not an endearing term. So I do not. I rebuke that. I rebuke fossil lamb, but I will proudly label myself, and you can join this label with me, legacy lamb. Legacy lamb. I think you, darling, are definitely a legacy lamb. You've got that. For those watching on the video podcast, show her that tattoo on your right bicep, right? I've seen this before. Look at that. You can't tell me this is not a legacy lamb. Got Mariah's autograph on his bicep. You've been there since the 90s, and I don't feel like it's fair to, shame people that have been there from the beginning. It means so much to Mariah, and I think it's wonderful that you've been on Twitter the whole time. I'm so glad I've, come back. I'm glad that she's there on Instagram, and yeah, legacy lambs unite. That's what I say.
I guess the younger lambs need to realize, and it's not shade. I mean, I wouldn't cast that shade in anyone, but like I guess we can both step into their shoes and go, yeah, 40 sounds ancient, but you're going to be 40 love before you know it. So it's happening whether you like it or not. So at the end of the day, I don't feel 40. I don't act 40. I'm down with the kids, know the apps. I'm just as active as maybe a younger lamb, with my tweets, facts, whatever, my profess of love. So we all love Mariah. And I actually even hate to see, I hate when I even see online some lambs pitting against each other or just falling out, because at the end of the day, our core reason is to love Mariah and be there for Mariah. So really, we should all unite, young, old, and indifferent. If you're here to love Mariah, you're a lamb of, you're part of the Lamely, and that's a friend of mine at the end of the day. So
yeah, whatever it is, it doesn't have to be like an age divide. It can just be preferences, opinions, like whatever. I mean, on my YouTube channel, True Treacle, I try and keep it open space. As long as you've got good manners, your opinion is your opinion. And I love debate. I love healthy debate. You haven't got to agree with me. I haven't got to agree with you. That's boring. But it just comes down to good manners. As soon as good manners are out the window, I just leave the room quietly, which means I might even leave the comment section on my own video and just let the others play. But no, I am interested in what it must be like for lambs joining the fandom in the past few years, couple of albums, because it's just different. They've come in, and Mariah is on social media. Everything is retrospective. Maybe they came in during Elusive Chanteuse, or maybe they came in during Caution. They've had that one smack. They get to live one era, and then everything else is like discovery through YouTube, and it's so much. I remember feeling overwhelmed, so I just had the albums from the 90s to kind of, some of them to discover. To come into the family now, I think is amazing. I think it's wonderful that Mariah is still picking up fans and lambs, but it must be... I'm just curious what that experience is. And perhaps part 2 of this conversation could be you and I sat again with a couple of younger lambs, baby lambs. I just want to pick their brains. I just want to know what that experience is like. I can connect with you about VHSs and cassettes and falling asleep with headphones. And I wonder what it's like for others. You know what I mean?
I suppose my observation is, and maybe it's wrong and maybe it's good, but just from, again, being on social media, I think the newer lambs don't appreciate albums like Music Box. It's dated, it's boring, it's this. I'm like going, oh my God, this is the album that made me a lamb. They like the more recent, like Me, I Am Mariah, or the Caution eras, and, which are obviously equally as amazing, but like, don't this, the greatness that Music Box and Daydream had. Like, yes, they're 90s album, but at that time, they were the pinnacle at the time, and I suppose we have the attachment because they were the albums that brought us into the Lamely and made us fans, and we revere them as much as Caution, if not more, because of that. We probably have that attachment to those albums. But I can probably see if you got into Mariah, maybe listen to Obsessed, and then you're going back to maybe the older tunes, maybe you're not as connected, or maybe you can connect, or maybe you're not just giving them the opportunity that they deserve. But to me, those are
her strong foundations. They paid for many of the luxuries that Mariah enjoys these days. And I think it's an interesting point because we've had to kind of shift with her because, she did branch out and try different things. And we've been on that journey with her, which I love so much. But if you come in now and you suddenly jump back to 93, that's a jump. That is a jump. So it must be just a different
like, even
experience.
for me, some of the songs on, say, the Rarities, if those songs came out in '93, I'm sure I'd even be 10 times more obsessed and going,
Yeah.
this is cutting edge. It's sometimes hard to go back on a song 20 years,
Yes.
30 years later
Yeah.
and have that connection. Go, it sounds good, it's great, I'm sure it would have been brilliant in the 90s. And I love it for what it is, but I know I'd be 10 times more obsessed with it. So that for me is like us coming in as a young lamb and going back to the old. So maybe that's kind of our little window to see how that might feel, or maybe put ourselves in those younger lamb shoes. To go that. So like I know, like for me, All I Live For, I know for a fact if I heard that in '93, I'd be obsessed. It'd be like a go-to song. But maybe now it's just a good song, and I'm trying to think. I'm not maybe loving that as much as I should, and maybe that's because I'd be obsessed with it if I knew it in '93. Yeah, it's just hard to.
Yeah, because you're listening to it with your 2020 ears to something she recorded in '93 with. Yeah, I totally get what you mean, because I thought exactly the same thing about All I Live For, because I love that song so much, but it does feel like a retrospective moment, you know. I love this. I love discovering how people came into the Lamely. You and I have had this discussion as friends, you know, before today, but it's been great just to go back and revisit and just, you know, throw things around really. But I think I would love to sit with some other lambs and just compare, like to ask questions like that. Oh, so you came in at Caution. So when did you go and visit Music Box? And I'm stunned when I see some people that are quite active on Twitter, like, oh my God, I just gave this album a listen. I'm like, you just gave that album a listen. So I would be super interested to sit with a couple of lambs of a different generation, and
I think it'd be a good idea, definitely.
Yeah.
I like
well,
the sound of it.
maybe that will be part 2. Taz, before I let you go today, there is a part of my podcast that I'm very excited for, because I'm going to play a little game with you, darling. Are you up for a game? It's going to be festive.
That you were not into games, you're not into playing games, and here we are playing freaking games.
Well, when I'm in charge of the rules, I like to play games. So here we go.
Let's do it, darling.
Okay, so the game is spin, pin, or bin. Okay, I have on my phone, I have entered every single Mariah Carey song into a list, and it is one of those automatic generators. Okay, so this is basically her entire discography. It's not every single remix though, because that's just like too much, but there's hundreds of songs here. I am going to randomly choose 3 songs, and we're both going to do this. We have to pick one song to spin, one to pin, and one to bin. So spin is love it, play it right now. That is spin. I've got to play it. Bin is you have to throw it away. You never get to hear it ever again. You have to kiss it goodbye. It goes in the trash. Pin is you're going to put a pin in it. Maybe I'll listen to it, but it's for later. I'll put a pin in it for now. Okay? So spin, pin, or bin. Are you ready?
FYI, I hate these games. I feel on the spot, but whatever. We'll be a sport. I'll be a sport.
Okay, so here we go. Random generator. The first song is I Know What You Want. Okay? I Know What You Want is the first one with Buster. Second one, oh my God. Here we go. Around Again. And the third song, I Pray. Okay, that's freaky. We've had 2 from the rarities. Okay. So, I Know What You Want, Here We Go Around Again, and I Pray. One of them you have to throw away and you're never going to get to listen to ever again.
Bye-bye, I Pray.
Are you going to bin I Pray?
Oh, good looking, thanks. I thought this was going to be a hard game, but that was easy. Okay.
Well, it depends which songs come up, but okay, I'll let you go first. Okay, so you're gonna bin I Pray. Okay, and then you've got I Know What You Want and Here We Go. One of them you put a pin in it, like you're kind of into it maybe later, and one of them is spin, like put it on now. That's the one. Which is your favorite?
Okay, so I'm gonna spin Here We Go Around Again, and I'm gonna pin I Know What You Want.
Do you know what? I'm going to co-sign with you, because I was thinking about it and I made a little scribble on my pad here, and when I Know What You Want came up, I thought that's probably going to be my pin, because I do love it, but it could be bin if two other really strong ones came up. Here We Go Around Again, I am kind of obsessed with, but like we just said before, had it come out earlier, like at the time, it could be like massive, but I do love it. I Pray, that's my bin. That is my bin. I agree. Because, I was so surprised by I Pray because we knew the song, right, from the kids singing it on Oprah. And I thought, oh, Mariah's version is going to be amazing. It's going to be so, so big. And I don't want to say I was disappointed. I was not disappointed. But how can I put it? Maybe I was expecting something different to what we got. How did you feel about it?
Yeah, I think it was too samey to the young guys' version. I thought you were going to elevate it to like even more, as you say, maybe take it to the next level. And ways she can kind of like say through the range, she can take it a notch up, and it's probably going to take it to that level. But it was just, if you heard the young fella's version, Mariah's wasn't a million miles away from that. So just to me, it never elevated.
Okay. So that makes sense. That's pretty much how I feel about it. So we are going to spin. Here we go around again. We're going to put a pin in I Know What You Want. And I'm Sorry, I Pray. We're going to bin you.
Me.
So there we go. That is the first ever round of spin, pin, or bin. Taz, it has been an absolute pleasure to catch up with you. Always is. We're always popping off in each other's DMs and stuff, and it's been so great to have you on my YouTube channel. So, guys, you can catch up with Taz. You can connect with him at Taz Conway on Insta and Taz Irish Lamb on Twitter. You can catch up with me. I am Treacle Tots on Instagram and Twitter. And you can go and check out my YouTube channel, True Treacle. You will find Taz in a number of videos. We had an on-camera discussion. You were part of my book club. So it's always a pleasure to have you over on my YouTube channel. And here you are on the first ever Hey Lamb podcast. So thank you so much for joining me. And maybe you can come and join me again sometime.
Of course, love. Anytime I'm available. But I'll ask you a question. Why are you Treacle Tots on one and True Treacle on the other? Let's spin it back, Annie. Answer the question, darling.
Okay, very quickly because then we have to go. When I started my YouTube channel, I did not intend for it to be all about Mariah. So I thought I would just play on something with my nickname. So I thought, okay, Treacle Tots. I was looking at what is available on YouTube, and I thought I'll just want to have it like about me, like my interests and stuff. So True Treacle. It wasn't that deep. I kind of wish I put more thought into it because here we are 8-9 months later, 150 videos later, 3,000 subs later. I'm like, oh, I wish I picked a better name. But it is what it is now. It is what it is. Thank you so, so much, Taz. And I will have you back again very, very soon, once again on Hey Lamb.
I look forward to it. And we need to grill these little new lambs and see what they feel about these fossil lambs.
I look forward to that. Cheers, Taz. Cheers. Thanks a lot.
Cheers. Talk to you soon.